Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are here right after Rivalry Weekend. We were recording a few days after Rivalry Weekend, and it wasn't just Rivalry Weekend that kind of set off everything. It was everything outside of Rivalry Weekend that set it off everything, which is we'll get into in a second. But Josh, I know we both have experienced some winter weather a little bit. How are you hanging in there? How are you surviving this December, which is already December? It feels like yesterday that me and you were doing an episode in person in July.
Yeah, we're definitely in December. It definitely looks like it when you look outside. Thanksgiving was great, spending time with my
Mhm.
girlfriend's family down there and her coming up here with my family. But then the weekend came and we had, I want to say it was probably 2 to 3 inches of snowfall Saturday night,
Mm.
but then it rained. Next morning it's all gone, can't even tell it snowed. But then Monday night we had another few inches fall and it's still out there to stay and it's sub 30 degrees right now as we speak. So it's officially Christmas season upon us,
Hmm.
Ben. It looks like we could have a white Christmas, but it's also Ohio and you never know what kind of weather you are in for. But it was fun to watch the game on the weekend and see the snow. And I know we'll be talking a lot about that today since your Buckeyes finally broke that losing streak and didn't embarrass me in my pick. But yeah, go ahead and talk about what weather you're dealing with over across the ocean, then we can
Yeah.
dive into some football talk.
Well, I live in the city, so anytime it snows, like at my workplace, because I work outside in like the suburb. And usually we get some decent, you'll see snow on the ground, but then in the city it tends to get warmer because you have all the cars, you have all the businesses, everything just it's warmer in the city and just in the ground itself. So it's usually like slush, which I'm used to in Ohio, but I just hate. Um, but no, Thanksgiving was great. We just had a small one, and then we went to my friend's house. He lives out in a city outside of Budapest, and yeah, we watched the game on TV. We had some pizza, watched the game, and it was obviously for me, it's always cool. It's a kind of a weird experience for me now because I've always been used to waking up, watching game day, watching the game at noon with family. Whether that's my dad's side of the family or just my dad and family. But this time, ever since I've moved to Hungary, it's at six p.m. at night, which is kind of a weird thing. I like as a traditionalist of Ohio State fans, it's just it feels wrong, even though it is at noon. But it just is. It's very different in that sense. But no, it was a good weekend, and I'm very excited to talk about this Ohio State game.
Yeah. Yeah, so that of course was the first time Ohio State's won the game since 2019,
Hmm.
and I think they might have also done it without winning the rushing battle, which I think that's only happened two
No, they did.
times.
No, they did win the Russian battle. Did win the
Okay.
Russian battle. So now
Okay.
this is now 24 straight times that
That the
that
team that won the rushing battle
yes
won the
wins the
game.
game.
Yeah, and it makes
20.
sense when you've realized it's a Big Ten game. It's played at the end of November. We had some snow, like I said, so it really ends up being, it tends to be more of a smash mouth game.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta give credit to Ohio State. The adversity was there early. They made a few mistakes, and Michigan, kicked a couple field goals. The defense was able to hold them to just that instead of some touchdowns. But Ohio State really hasn't been in much adversity, Ben, except for week one against Texas, saying these guys didn't sweat at all. They didn't panic like,
Hmm.
oh no, here we go again. They were pros about it. They acted like they'd been there, and they just took care of business to the point that it's like Michigan went into the half with 108 rushing yards and finished the game, I think, with 100 even. Bryce
Yep.
Underwood comes out and goes 8 of
He
18
looked
with
awful.
63
He looked
yards,
so bad.
no touchdowns. Like that's your highest paid NIL quarterback right there, doing his thing. And then of course, you got the defense of the logo so that no flag gets planted, but then Ohio State fans and the
Seems like they
players
cared.
surround the
Seemed
ball
like
around
they
the.
seems like they cared more about the defending the M than they did defending the end zone. Is what I
They
feel
did, and
like.
that's what everybody's been talking about. And I know there was discussion on whether the Jeremiah Smith touchdown was actually a catch or not. But even if
Who
you
cares?
even if you pull that out, I don't think that there was ever a
No.
doubt after those first couple mistakes Ohio State made who was in control of this thing. And again, I'm going to go ahead and say it again. I've been saying it most of the season. The Ohio State defense is the best individual unit in all of college football. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I wrote a few things down and a couple things I wanted to point out. One, I just want to say this about Michigan. Um, stop trying to run the ball like you're in 2004. Like you spent all this money on a quarterback, and I think Busting with the Boys had some insights on this. David Cohn had some insights on this. A few other people are like, "Is the guy ready? Are you going to let him be a quarterback?" RJ Young was even like, "Is this guy like you were hyping him up, and he'd been talking some smack as well? Is he the quarterback you need, or is Sharon Moore the coach you need?" And again, that's for another conversation. But I think that was the interesting thing for me is that you ran the ball, but when you're down, like that's the thing is Michigan once they're down, they struggle getting back into a game because they can't throw the ball. Um, but this is the other things I wrote down, and one of the things I wrote down was this, that I believe that this showed me that Ryan Day like this was the Ryan Day legacy game. This was a game that Ryan Day wins this game. Now he's back on the right track. I think this really sets him in the right track. But part of that is too is like how he handled himself through this whole thing. He was on with Bussin' the Boys, which I thought was hilarious with Taylor Lewan. Like
Hmm.
the fact that he had no idea and then apologized to Ryan Day. And it's like even in that moment, Ryan Day was so humble and so like the amount of crap that he's went through over the last few years. And look, I've been frustrated at him at times, but the things that have been said, the vile things that have been said, and the fact that he held himself above everything, emotions, everything, and just was honorable. I mean, he literally had to go to Sharon Moore, which, by the way, this is the funniest thing, is he went to Sharon Moore and was like, dude, we're not going to storm the field, so you can just tell your guys to go now. Like, and then Sharon Moore goes and does it. Like that just showed that was like the twist of the knife in the gut. And for me, uh, Ryan Day proved what we've all thought he was, which is a very, very, if not one of the best coaches and not the best, one of the best coaches in college football. But then I wrote two more things down: one for the offense, one for the defense. One for the offense. Julian saying for a guy who's never played in weather below 50 degrees and throwing the ball the way he did in the snow was very impressive. The accuracy of this guy, of course, we know. But his patience and I think the biggest thing with the offense that stuck me out was that dude, they did a Michigan thing. It was all it was almost like Ryan Day wanted to like shove this into Michigan a little bit, and they did a 20 play, 12-minute drive. Josh, that's almost a full quarter. Josh, that is literally telling your opponent like we are going to drive it down your throat until you can't stop it anymore. And yeah, it was a field goal or whatever, but I think what that showed me was is that was the one question mark that everyone had about the Buckeyes was can they run the ball? And they proved with Bo Jackson, which by the way, stop doing this like switching with CJ Donaldson. Like give Bo Jackson his carries. I mean, this
Bo just
dude,
needs to be the full-time
dude,
starter.
he didn't even play against Texas and he's got 950 yards rushing. Like he's doing what he has to do, and Jeremiah being Jeremiah. Josh, when are teams going to learn not to single coverage Jeremiah and Carnell? I'm just wondering when that's going to finally happen
Well,
because
shoot,
every
Ben, if you
time,
just double team both of them, then you're leaving somebody else, at least one
oh,
guy
I
wide
know.
open.
Well, I mean, at least like bracket cover them. Goodness. But anyways, that was what I have for the offense. For the defense, I mean, look, this defense, they bend a little bit, but they don't break. And I'm telling you, Patricia deserves to be assistant of the year. He should win that award
Yeah, what
for
is
what
that, the
he's done.
Broyles Award?
Yeah, he should win that award. And I think I after this game, and I honestly will say this, Josh, and you see this in my preview, is I don't think there's a team out there that can beat Ohio State. If Ohio State gets up 2 scores, there's no team that can beat them. I don't see a team that can have the offensive power and then have the defense to control the game in that sense. And maybe there is, but to me, it just this was a game that Patricia and Ryan Day just they game planned beautifully. Brian Hartline, um, offensive line was this is the best offensive line I've seen play at Ohio State probably in 4 or 5 years. I mean, just the way that you get zero pressures. Um, but again, hats off to Ryan Day and that staff. I was so proud of them, and I'm so happy to be a Buckeye. And look, it's just the beginning, as Ryan Day said. There's a lot more to go this year. So I'm very excited to see what happens. And yeah, those are my takes. Michigan, figure out your quarterback situation and also like grow a pair. Stop trying to like act like you're tough when you defend the M. Like it seemed like you cared more about that before the game. You were like, if we lose, this is what we're going to do. And it just shows the culture at Ohio State is different. Ohio State lost their headsets, and it was funny because Ryan Day said today that he had inkling that something was going to happen with the headsets, so they planned for not having headsets. And so like to me, it's like the culture is just different at Ohio State, and that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, I'll say one last thing about Ohio State and then one about Michigan, I guess where they just go from here. So I think this shows how truly one-off last year's game was that Ohio
Oh yeah,
State
oh
lost.
yeah.
But I also think it shows how necessary it was because of obviously the playoff run that they went on
Hmm.
and then uh, the way that this regular season has gone. It totally changed Ryan Day and the way that he game plans for a lot of his big games. And I've had conversation with some Buckeye fans. They're saying, that things just feel different now that they finally, were able to beat Michigan, and that this feeling is so much better than winning the national championship was last year.
Hmm.
But that was the point that I raised is like, I don't think that you are winning this game this year. I don't think you won the national
No,
championship even
I don't
last year
either.
unless that game happened. So that was the ultimate wake-up call that I think Ryan Day needed. And then as far as things with Michigan go, yes, I know this team was young. I think they had like 5 or 6 freshmen and sophomores on this offense that had never played in this game before. I
Yeah.
know that Bryce Underwood is a freshman and he's going to have, his ups and downs, but I was
Bo
always
Jackson,
looking,
Julian Sane, freshman.
yeah, I know. So it's most of the time an excuse, but there's still some teams out there that got some really good guys. And to the point that I was just going to make about Bryce, I was always looking at Dylan Raiola's freshman season compared to his as the year went on, and I thought that Bryce could maybe match that. Dylan had 2,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 11 picks, and Bryce finishes with 2,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 picks, I believe was his final stat line for the 12-game regular season. And it's really nothing to be excited about. He had 2 games that were sub 100. I think his best game, quote unquote, was the Central Michigan game, so against the MAC. There were times where he had some nice throws, but he really never had a truly good game. And this Michigan team lost to Oklahoma, scored only 13. They lost to USC, only scored 13. They lost to Ohio State and scored only 9. So like all the big ranked games that they had, they just totally flopped in. So they finished 9-3, and you can say that's solid for what the squad had coming in. But if you're Michigan, you believe that you're truly a blue blood, a tier one program. This is still unacceptable. And maybe this was a season that some of these guys can get some of that experience in, and then next year can build upon that. But this if you're a Michigan fan, I know this isn't something that you want to make the norm or be okay with.
Oh
So.
no.
Well, and if I do wonder too, if Bryce never gets to the level that we expect him to be at, what that does for Michigan being able to recruit quarterbacks going down the road, because some of the biggest recruits they've gotten, like Shea Patterson and throw Bryce in there, and then JJ McCarthy recently, none of them really flat out dominated the college game. Like I think you got to go all the way back to Chad Henne, and I know
Yeah.
Tom Brady's a famous alum, but he didn't really dominate the college scene either. I mean, he was only a 6th round pick, so this. Michigan, I mean, passing's never really been their identity. They always got a good running game. They're always hard-nosed, but I know they want to, do things that some of these other blue bloods like Ohio State do and be able to have a passing attack that's scary, but it's hard to do, and it doesn't seem like Michigan's capable of developing that. So I think the
Yeah.
Wolverines got some things to figure out going forward.
I agree. I agree. And I don't know if Sharon Moore's the answer. I've always been questioning on that. Like I just never see. It just doesn't seem like the Michigan head coach, right? You know what I mean? Like Bo and those guys, Carr and Harbaugh, like those seem like Michigan fits. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. Knowing Michigan, I mean, look, Michigan's got out of a lot of different things, and whatever you might think of them, they really do to get to figure it out though, because I think, Josh, if I'm honest with you, this could be a run for Ohio State. This could be a run of a few games in a row before you see Michigan even have a chance to win another one, and it could be a 5-6 game streak if this is the Michigan that we're going to see the next 4 or 5 years.
But also because of Ohio State, we're going to see the next few years. We're going to see Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, and Bo Jackson taking the field
Jeez,
again.
it's
Again, and
just
maybe
wild.
you can talk Carnell Tate into staying. I don't know. It's going to be very hard, but you'll have Brandon Ennis in his place at least, so it'll be
And you
okay.
have Chris Henry Jr., who's the top freshman wide receiver coming out of this class, which also makes it interesting and also gives you, I mean, again, in the defense we need to replace, but again, they replaced the whole defense this year. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Rinse and repeat. I mean, that's something that Ohio State seems to do really good. There's teams that put together squads and then they might have a big, group leave and then they go like 8-4, 9-3. But Ohio State consistently is winning 10 or 11 games no matter who they got in the building. It's really hard to do.
True. I agree.
That wasn't the only exciting game that happened this weekend. I think the one of the next most exciting ones was Georgia and Georgia Tech. And this was a game I want to say it was either last year or the year before that, went to 8 overtimes.
Yeah, it was last year,
And
8 overtimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and give the Yellow Jackets credit for hanging in there tough. We both think very highly of the Dogs. They're high in our power ranking. We thought they were the best team in the SEC coming into this weekend. I think we were in agreement on that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and we've seen this in some of Georgia Tech's big games, is that you need more than Haynes King, and he's tough. He's a really big part of the offense, but it seems like that's really the only weapon that they got. But to their credit, they fought. They were right in it at the end and just weren't able to, complete it. But yeah, I thought it was a very exciting game. Whether you were a neutral fan or either fan of either side. Obviously, if you're a Tech fan, you want to win that. But yeah, what'd you think of
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah. I mean, I think Georgia kind of proved like that. Well, my buddy who I work with, he played in the Georgia marching band, and he was not even concerned about this game, and I think, well, rightfully so. Like again, Georgia Tech is, I think they play in the ACC, so that helps. But yeah, just the way Georgia kind of went in there, and it kind of felt like they took care of business pretty well, pretty easily. Um, Look, it sets them up for a big opportunity this weekend, and we'll see what happens. But again, it was a good game.
Yeah. Also very exciting was Texas A&M, and after we discussed our prediction, I picked Texas. I was hearing more case for A&M that made me almost wish I would have thought differently. We were saying that A&M's been in some tough spots this year. They've had some close calls, but I didn't really think about how that also could be a strength to the fact that they've been able to win almost every kind of game this year. They've been able to win in a shootout. They've been able to win in a defensive grunt fest. Been able to win a comeback. Like
Hmm.
there's not really anything you can throw at them or any situation you can put them in they haven't been in already. But one thing that you got to give Texas credit for, and this was some of the things that I saw coming, was Arch continued to stay hot. One other thing that was important that I mentioned was going to have to be different was don't get outscored in the fourth quarter, or at least score some points in the fourth quarter, because we saw that almost screw them over against Vanderbilt. We saw it screw them over against Georgia, and they came out and continued to stay hot all throughout the second half. And Arch had another great day. So Texas, they got the best win of the season. They got the best loss of the season. And even though they're going to be going into, the final week with 3 losses, I think they did about all they could to, put a playoff resume together. But there's still a lot of 10-2 teams out there I think probably deserve a spot. But they ended the season on a high note there, I thought.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Texas. I again, Texas A&M, I've they're kind of like that team that looks like it's a great opportunity, or like that business that looks like a great opportunity, but then when you look underneath, there's a lot of holes that you didn't realize before, and that's kind of how I view Texas A&M. I think there's a lot of holes there that they need to figure out. I don't think Marcel Reed's over the year. I originally thought he was going to be a top guy, but overall he seems like he's struggling a lot more now. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But again, Texas put up a lot of some quality wins. But again, that loss to Florida, man, is going to just bite them. They can't hide from that one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a damning loss for sure. But like I said, they do have the best win at least, and we'll see what the committee ends up thinking of that. Um, let's see what else was going on this weekend rivalry-wise. Oh, we got to talk about the Iron Bowl too,
Hmm.
because like I had mentioned before, there is a lot still riding on Auburn's season here to make them motivated to win this game. You had first off DJ Durkin being in the hunt to get the coaching job. Of course, we know now it maybe he never really had a shot as big as we thought, or that loss ended up hurting him, and they go the route with Alex Golish. So they had that going for them. They had a shot to win this and become bowl eligible. They had a shot here to knock Bama out of the playoff hunt and make them have 2 seasons in a row with 3 losses. And then, of course, Alabama, the way they've been winning games, you've had to be really, really mistake free because they can't run the football. They don't really have a deep pass game right now. All their drives have been like, 10 to 15 plays. So they're very vulnerable to turn the ball over, and they haven't been turning it over to their credit. But the Oklahoma game, that didn't go their way, and they ended up losing it. So Auburn, a scrappy team that needed it to be like a close grunt fest and not a shootout, was in a prime position to win this one. I think they were up 17 to 0 at one point, which was absolutely crazy. Or was it Alabama up 17-0? I can't remember. Either way, this was looking like it was going to get away, and then it didn't. And it ends up being, I think, a 27 to 20 final. I'll go ahead and double check who had the 17-0 lead. But yeah, Iron Bowl thoughts and how that game went.
Look, Iron Bowl was like the Iron Bowl. Like we always view the Iron Bowl. It's never like I think many people brought that up. I think leading up to the game was like this was going to be a slugfest because they always have a slugfest between these two teams, even no matter how bad Auburn might be. Um, Alabama, I think, got very blessed this game. Um, Alabama, I think, not to foreshadow, but I don't think it's going to be close this weekend. That's all I got to say with that one. But look, they got the win, and that's what matters. But I think there's a lot of holes they need to fix before they face Georgia.
Yes, so what it was is Alabama was up 17 to 0 early in the second quarter, and Auburn ended up fighting their way back with a touchdown early in the fourth to make it 20-20. And then Alabama in the last less than 4 minutes to go scores the go-ahead touchdown. So that was
Mm.
that was how that game script went. I think the last game that we previewed last time, and I think is worth discussing too, is how Vanderbilt just you know put the pedal to the metal on
Oh
Tennessee
yeah.
and just embarrassed them. And
Also shows you how Tennessee is nowhere close to where they were last year.
they aren't. Like Tennessee lost to all their ranked games, I think, this year. Similarly to what we just were talking
Yeah.
about with Michigan. They looked really good against bad teams, but they never, with exception to the Georgia game, never really looked like they belonged with a lot of the big boys. But like we said, like I've said before, with what happened in the spring with their quarterback situation and stuff, I think they were able to salvage it the best they could. And 8-4, I thought would be a solid season. But again, like Vanderbilt, got to give credit to Diego Pavia. He had two picks early, didn't let that phase him.
Yeah.
Continued to, keep his head down, and they end up, beating the big brother. This has to be one of the, like we were saying, this is one of the best Vanderbilt season I think you and I have ever seen. Maybe the best
Oh, for
Vanderbilt
sure.
season our dads have ever seen. Possibly, dare I say, the best Vanderbilt season our grandfathers have seen. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to the program, but they're a baseball school. We don't see them play football like this. So, yeah, this is really good for Diego's Heisman campaign too, and we can talk about that later, maybe when we
Yeah.
get to our rankings. But yeah, really, really solid
No,
finish. And somehow the AP poll dropped them in the rankings after
I
that
know.
win too. We
It's
don't
going
know
to be
what the
interesting.
college playoff ranking is
No,
going to
yeah,
look
it's
like.
going to
That
be
comes out
interesting.
tonight. But
It's going to be interesting what they go. I think they're going to be on the bubble, man. I think they have to have a lot happen. I think Alabama, if Alabama loses, then I think there's a good shot that Vanderbilt gets in over Alabama. But again, Alabama is one of those teams where they're a legacy team, so why would we drop them out? But
right,
I think Vanderbilt's a team that deserves that shot. I think though the first time they face a really tough defense, I think they're going to struggle. Pavia can't just run around with a chicken with his head cut off. So yeah, I think it's a team that deserves it. We'll see what happens.
for sure. And of course, we'll get into some of this discussion when we get into the conference championship games happening this week. But at least in the AP poll, from one down, you got Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Oregon, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. You assume that all nine of those are probably safe, even if they lose any of those teams are playing this weekend and they lose, you figure they're going to be okay. But then you get to Alabama, who's at 10, and you get to BYU, who's at 11, Miami at 12, Vanderbilt 13, Texas 14, Utah 15, Virginia 16. The only three-loss team in there that I just mentioned is Texas. But then you got to remember too, the way that auto bids work is that if Virginia does win this weekend, they get one of those. They jump up into that top 12 and push out Miami. If also the either Tulane or North Texas, they win, they're going to push that next team out, which could be BYU. And dare I say, Duke wins and JMU wins. That's another team that is going to be spring loaded into the top 12 and another team that's bumped down. So it's going to be
Yeah.
definitely a wild weekend. The committee's going to have their hands full if we get some of these truly chaotic scenarios. And another one that I'm hearing floated around, Ben, is that uh, with a precedent of Florida State being left out of the four-team field because Jordan Travis got hurt, Ole Miss, what do you do with them? They're currently sixth in the AP, and Lane Kiffin, of course, goes. And you can expect the roster to be decimated by players transferring out, the staff to be decimated by assistants leaving. They decide that Pete Golding is going to be
Hmm.
not just the interim, but the new full-time head coach. So this team's going to be a shell of itself. And, you know, going into the weekend, you figure they're going to be, one of these top six seeds. They're going to be in a really nice spot to make a run to the Final Four. But instead, it's going to be, just a shell of the program, and probably going to be a disappointing first round exit. So with that in mind, you just leave them out entirely. And I hate that thought and I hate that decision. I hope they don't do it, but it's at least not being discussed by anybody big. It's just something I've been seeing on Twitter at least. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. But why don't we go ahead and talk about the coaching cycle that's gone around? This episode really could be 2 hours, I think, with everything that's gone on just in
Yeah.
college football alone, and not to mention some of the moves that have been happening in baseball and stuff like that that we're not even going to really get to talk to today. But the Lane Kiffin move was really the one that was going to have to, that was the first domino that was going to have to fall before all these other jobs filled. And then it was going to get interesting if he decided to stay at Ole Miss. But reports are coming out. It was looking obvious that he was going to be the LSU coach, and he took that job. So now the Tigers got their next guy. And that also led to uh, a cycle of Florida then getting John Summerall since they failed the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. And like I said, Auburn getting Alex Golish after failing the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. And after all those guys went, Arkansas kind of made their move with Ryan Silverfield. Michigan State ended up firing Jonathan Smith, hires Pat Fitzgerald, and Penn State's still kind of here twiddling their thumbs, trying to get anybody to take them seriously in this coaching cycle. And by the way, we got signing day tomorrow. We're
Yeah.
recording on Tuesday, so it's like you gotta have a guy in here. Otherwise, who's gonna sign with a program that they have no idea who the coach is? But that's a lot that just happened there to lay out some framework. What was your reaction when Lane Kiffin got hired? Because I know when we last talked,
Not
I said I think it's a 40% chance he leaves. I was really
I
confident that well, not really confident, but leaned more towards him staying.
I'm not surprised. Lane Kiffin, when has he ever proven that he stays around and stays somewhere without thinking about it? Like last year, there was rumors that if Napier got fired last year, he wanted the Florida job really bad. He also talked about the Saban job. Like there was rumors that if they would have somehow fired him beforehand, or they agreed to part ways earlier, he would have took the Alabama job, right? So look, you get what you get with Lane Kiffin. It's about him, and it's not really about the job. He look. I get it. He wants a different job, but he basically quit on his players. Now you could say, well, the AD could let him coach, but I don't blame the AD. It's like, why would we want a guy in here that's probably going to hinder us in the long run? Um, but yeah, it's not surprising, and I don't think anybody should be surprised. I just think that it's all about him, and he's kind of making it seem that way too. If I was an Ole Miss fan, I'd be mad too. Um, you had one of your best seasons of all time, and kind of wasted away in a sense because we don't know what's going to happen. So that's probably the most interesting part of that, at least for me.
Yeah, I know Lane Kiffin has done himself no favors with some of the ways he's made ugly exits in the past. And did you see in his opening, I guess, press conference, he said that this decision was not about money in any way. He didn't even know what he was going to be getting paid at LSU. He didn't want to know any of that information when all these negotiations
What
were
what
going
is
on
he?
because he
What is he?
truly wanted to pick
Miles
what
Garrett?
was best for him,
What is it?
I
Miles Garrett
guess.
of the college football?
It's like, okay, you don't have to go that far, dude. No one's gonna like take a job when they don't know what the salary is. And plus with all the rumors
Exactly.
going around, and we all knew what the LSU offer was that was being reported. So it's like, how did he not hear that, or one of his kids not hear that and say it to him, So I don't really believe that at all. But I think this goes to show what the bigger issue is the way that the calendar in college football is set. Because let's just say that he wants to take the LSU job, but also wants to do his program, you know, fair justice and coach that the season out. If you're LSU, how good? how do you feel about that when he's going to be, finishing that season out and you got, signing day to come over here, you got recruits that you got to take care of, you got, you got to hire your staff before everybody else gets hired right now. And then it's like, okay, if you're Ole Miss too, how do you feel about him having one foot in, one foot out? Can you really count on him to be like 100% committed to winning these games? Is he going to sabotage you since you're technically not his team anymore? And yeah, it's gonna like Ole Miss is gonna be decimated, like I said, the way the calendar works and the way the academic calendar works too. Like everybody's gotta like go. And we saw this with Penn State and Bo Prabula last year was a big discussion because Bo's, of course, the backup quarterback at Penn State. He wants to stick with his team and make this playoff run. And Drew Aller was the starter, and of course he didn't get hurt. But if he did, that was going to be a big problem for Penn State because their backup quarterback that had been with them all year wasn't going to be there. And Ohio State was in a lesser profile situation with Devin Brown kind of being in the same deal. If Will Howard gets hurt, we're kind of screwed. But these guys want to go and be there for their team. But the way that the calendar's set up and the way that academics work and stuff, they got to get enrolled in their next place and
Hmm.
get the ball rolling over there too. So it just seems that I don't really remember this being as big of a problem when we were just in the BCS era, when it was way harder to transfer, when we had the full bowl season that would just end at New Year's, and then you'd see like all the moves happening then. But the way that's set up now, we really haven't seen a coaching situation this high profile happen yet in this era
Yeah.
because most of the time these coaches are at programs that are destination jobs and they want to stay there.
Yeah.
So now that we got 12 teams, though, you're going to be getting a little more squads that are not necessarily destination jobs. Like John Summerall, Tulane, if they end up
Mhm.
winning this weekend, they're going to be in a playoff team and they're going to be
Yeah.
a team without a coach, too. Like that's one that not many people are talking about right now since Kiffin's like, the louder situation right now. But yeah, it's the powers at be of college football really only care about how much money they can make, and I wish like coaches have talked about this. Chip Kelly's talked about this, like how the calendar, especially at a place like UCLA where he was head coach, they do quarters, which throws another like crazy wrench into the
Yeah.
situation. Nick Saban's talked about this, and I think he didn't want to be in this format of college football anymore, which ultimately it led to him retiring. Uh, that's just kind of the angle that I've seen on it. And like I said, Lane Kiffin's past and the way that he's kind of handled this hasn't really done himself any favors. But I'm not pointing the finger at him. I'm not pointing the finger at LSU or Ole Miss. I'm pointing the finger at the NCAA for basically just allowing a situation like this to happen, basically because of how stupid and incompetent they are.
No, 100% agree. You shouldn't have to deal with this at this time frame, and could he have handled it differently? Yes, but also like I don't blame him. He's looking out for his family, whatever his thought pattern is. I feel for the kids, those players that give it everything to him. But again, I think you're right. They need to fix things before it gets better, and I don't know if they ever will because they're too stubborn. So we'll see what happens for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think we really got anything to talk about that happened over the
Mm.
weekend now. You want to just go ahead into some updated power rankings and some Heisman rankings now, going into
Yeah, and then
CCG
we
week.
yeah, and then we could just finish up with a couple of the championship games. And I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
Um, so last week we had I had for my power rankings Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Indiana 3, Texas Tech 4, Texas A&M 5. You had Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Georgia 3, Texas A&M 4, and Texas Tech 5. Um, and then for Heisman's, I had Julian Sayin 1, Fernando Mendoza 2, Jeremiah Love 3, Diego Pavia 4, Jeremiah Smith 5. You had Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love, Diego Pavia, Jeremiah Smith. So we had the exact same. Um, so I think for power rankings, I'll start with power rankings. And for me, obviously, I'm dropping Texas A&M. I don't think they deserve to be in there, especially after that loss. So for me, who I'm putting at 5 for me is I'm actually putting Oregon. I think Oregon is a really, really good team. I think they're a very challenging team. I think defensively, they're very solid. Offensively, they run the ball really, really well. And then I think they've been hanging around there every once in a while, but I think they deserve to be in that top five for sure now.
I've debated this also because you look at Oregon and the way that they're playing football. They're ranked number 4 right now in the AP right now. I just wish I had a signature win I could point to, and I suppose USC would be that. Not to take anything away. And they got a nice win at Iowa, of course. I think the Penn State win is still nice. I mean, as I'm kind of saying this, I'm making a decent case for them. Like it's not really anything that's easy to argue. I just would have liked to have seen a slightly different result against Indiana. I think, in the best game you play on your own home field, you lose by 10. And A&M, look, we can go through what they've gone through this year too, and they got a shootout win over Notre Dame. They got a big win that they were able to get at LSU that doesn't really look as impressive now. They're able to beat Missouri while they were without some guys. They have the comeback against South Carolina, and then they lose by 10 to Texas. So I guess resumes actually are a little more comparable now that I'm looking at them with my own eyes. But like I was saying before, I like how Texas A&M has been able to win in multiple ways. I'm going to keep them at 5, but or not keep them, but drop them to 5. I think I had them at 4 before you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll drop them one more there, but I hear the case for Oregon, and I think it's pretty arguable. But Oregon's just going to be at 6 for me. Texas A&M at 5.
Yeah, and then for me, the rest of mine, I'm just going to say it now. The rest of mine stay. I think Texas Tech is fourth, Indiana three, Georgia two, and Ohio State one. I just think Georgia. I think it's just a slightly better team than Indiana. And again, we haven't seen it on full display. I think for either team, but that's what I think from watching.
4 for me is also Texas Tech. They absolutely rolled, committed legal assault. I think it was against West Virginia. Uh, Getting used to seeing that over and over again. And then 3, I'm going to keep Georgia. Like we said, really solid win, hard fought win over Tech. And then 2, IU, going to keep them there, and Ohio State at 1.
Love it. So for Heisman, not really much changes, just the order for me changes.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to say I'm going to keep five, Jeremiah Smith. Again, he had a touchdown, however you might want to call it. It was still a touchdown now ruling. Um, so for me, I just think he still is the best player in college football, so he deserves to be up here.
Yeah, look, I took him out of my ranking, and then he went on an incredible run that we've been looking for, but he's had back-to-back 40-yard games. So I was tempted to drop him out, but there really wasn't a compelling case really for
No.
anybody else. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that I've been saying I think Marcel Reed's gonna be one of the guys that they invite. I'm not really a fan of that. I understand why he'd be there, but just for the pure talent, for the film, for sure, I'm gonna go ahead and keep Jeremiah in there at 5.
Mm, love it. Number four for me is Jeremiah Love. Didn't have his great number game this past week. And he's also moving down just because someone is moving up for me. And so, yeah, Jeremiah Love at four.
I think I had Love at 3. I'm going to put him at 4 also. Still like a very solid 12 game campaign for him, finishing 4th in the nation in rushing yards, also finishing 3rd in the nation in rushing touchdowns. That yards per carry is still very nice, also sitting at 6.9. This last weekend, I mean, Notre Dame absolutely stomped Stanford, and he only had
Hmm.
14 carries in this one. He's been getting lower volume just because he's been doing his job pretty early. I mean, against Syracuse, he had only 8 carries, 3 touchdowns. So like
Yeah.
a third of the times he touched the ball, he scores. So they didn't really rely on him a whole lot in this 49-20 win, but still averaged 4.7 a carry and got a touchdown there. So not the clinching, you know, last hurrah that you would
Hmm.
have liked to have seen for a non-quarterback, but I'm still going
Hmm.
to keep him in my top 5 and put him at 4.
Yeah, for me, number three is Diego Pavia. I mean, the man has numbers out the wazoo. Every last couple of weeks, he's just been very hot, throwing the ball, running the ball. Yeah, it just makes sense. Diego Pavia here at three.
Diego also moved to 3 in my list too. I think at this point he's top 10 or borderline top 10 in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completion percentage. And like I said before, I know he threw two picks in this Tennessee game, which is something you really don't like to see. But like I said, kept his head down, willed them to not only an incredible win over Tennessee, but also one of the most incredible seasons Vanderbilt's ever had. So
Hmm.
finishes the year with 3,100 yards, almost 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, eight picks, the fourth best QBR at 87.8 in the country. So Diego at three.
Yeah, and then my top two stay the same. Number two is Fernando Mendoza. Number one, Julian Sane. And I actually think Julian Sane might have separated himself just a slightly bit more by this game he just played. And it's just up to them to figure out who's going to be that number one guy.
Yeah, that probably will be decided this weekend, and I won't
Yeah, I
for
agree.
it's probably gonna be decided this weekend. But for comparison's sake, I got Mendoza at two and saying at one for now.
Yeah.
But for like Mendoza's got 32 touchdowns, Sane's got 30. Mendoza's got 2,700 yards, Sane's got 3,000 right now. Completion percentage, Mendoza's completed 72%, Sane's completed just about 79%. So they're neck and neck. They got their teams both undefeated right now. The only two undefeated teams left in the country, I believe, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Since
it's
A&M
Ohio
lost.
State,
Yeah.
Indiana. Yep.
Yeah. So both are averaging 9.4 yards per pass too. So that's again, and this is more of an offensive line stat, of course, but Sain's only been sacked six times this year, which is absolutely insane, while Mendoza's been sacked 15 times.
Hmm.
Each have five interceptions too. So they're doing a good job of not putting their team in bad positions. Although I know some of Mendoza's comeback attempts have been because he's put his team in a bad spot. We haven't really seen that from Sand. So that's kind of why I lean Sand right now. But yeah, why don't we go ahead and continue this discussion into the Big Ten championship game since
Hmm.
both of these teams are playing. And the one thing that I've been thinking about is how in 2005 this would have been our national championship game with the way that the BCS format worked. I don't think the Big Ten had a conference championship game yet.
No, they
So
didn't.
we're getting like a natty level game for the Big Ten. And of course, the loser isn't going to be knocked out of the playoffs. They're just going to be a lower seed. But this is an exciting game. Who would have thought, you tell 10-year-old Josh that IU, the basketball school, is going to be one of the best teams in the country and playing Ohio State. I'd be like, wait. How's that possible? And then if you would have told like 20-year-old Josh the same thing, I'd be like, how? They're both in the Big Ten East. They can't both be in this game. But you tell almost 30-year-old Josh, it's like, yeah, it totally makes sense. So here we are. Like I said, the undefeateds. I think when you look statistically, both of these teams are basically top five in every category. They're neck and neck all around. I do think that Julian Sane, like I said, has put his team in better positions than Mendoza has, although Mendoza's been able to get out of maybe a little bit more adversity. And we saw Sane finally deal with some more adversity this weekend and handled it, like a champ, like I said. And I think the Ohio State defense also has shown themselves to be a little bit more reliable and able to be counted on. The spread for this one is Ohio State minus 5.5. It's a little tighter than I would have expected, but again, it's two teams that are 12 and 0, so maybe that has something to do with it. But go ahead and tell me what you like, what concerns you if you're a Buckeye.
I think what concerns you is that you get out of what you've been doing. I think if you get out of what you've been doing, then that's when there's going to be problems. I don't think Ryan Day is going to allow that to happen. I think it's going to be the same mindset they had last week. It's the same mindset they had the week before, and since the beginning of the season. Is they worry about us. They believe in yourself. They believe in the team. Um, so I'd say if anything, I'd say I'm worried a little bit about just the Indiana defense. That front four is really good. Um, how is Ohio State going to protect? But at the end of the day, I think Ohio State is just going to be a little bit too much for them. And yeah, I'm going to say Ohio State wins this game. I'm going to go 24-10 Ohio State.
Again, I'm going to rely a little more on the Ohio State defense in this one. Like I said, Sane's been sacked, I think, a third, or just about a third of the time that Mendoza has. So would love to see the Buckeyes be able to get some pressure and make Mendoza make some mistakes because he has. That's something that's happened before. And if he does in
Yeah.
this one and puts his team in a hole, I do not think that Ohio State defense is going to let him to get out of it. So I'm going ahead and lean Ohio State in this one. I think two scores is a justified outcome here. 28-14. I think I'm going to go. Uh,
Nice.
there's something else I was going to say about this game too, and it escapes me, of course. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Think Ohio State wins and covers. No issue here. Oh, I do remember what I was going to say. Unlike last year, if my memory serves me correct, uh, of course, the four highest rated conference champs get an auto bid. They just won't be the top four seeds.
Yeah.
So, regardless if Ohio State wins or loses this game, they're probably still going to be a top four seed and get an auto bid.
Especially when you have the ACC, who is just the worst championship game of all time, I think. Virginia versus Duke, just not an entertainment value that I would say, at
Yeah.
least.
The doomsday scenario, of course, over there, since you just brought that up, is if Duke wins, is the playoff committee going to put a five-loss Duke team into the top 12 seeds? Is that going to happen? I
No,
highly doubt it. I think
no.
the scenario of two G5s is much more likely. But if Virginia wins, then all is well and good. Uh, I know Virginia beat Duke by 17 earlier in the season, I believe it was, and Virginia is a 3.5 point favorite coming into this one. Uh, so yeah, go ahead and flip it over to you, Mr. Bowden.
Oh, I
Any chance that Duke wins and just totally destroys the
honestly,
ACC's credibility?
I, it, I just don't care about the ACC anymore. But uh, I'm going to say that the team that probably runs the ball the most, I think it's going to do really well in this game. But at the end of the day, I think Virginia is just going to be the better team, and I think they're going to keep it from being chaos.
Yeah, Vegas does think it's going to be close. Obviously, it's 3.5 Virginia, and the money line on Duke is only plus 140, so it wouldn't shock them too much if Duke came out on top in this one. But yeah, I guess if you're Duke, you're hoping for the best for Darian Mensah. We were talking about NIL money with Bryce Underwood. You got a lot of money that you're paying that kid also. So
Yeah.
go out and get that eighth win, I guess. But I'll pick Virginia. I think it'll be a close. I'll go we'll go 27-17 Cavaliers.
Mm.
So now we got some more conference championships that also have been or that will be rematches, and we'll just go ahead and start in the Big 12 with Texas Tech. And this is out of the Power Four conference championship games, the largest spread that we will see. It's Texas Tech minus 12.5. This was a really big spread when they met in the regular season. And of course, Texas Tech won that regular season game pretty convincingly to the tune of 29-7. Now, you can look at BYU in that one and say, yeah, there were missed opportunities here. There were mistakes made that could have made it a little bit closer, but Texas Tech also had their handful of things they could have done to make this even more of an
Hmm.
embarrassment for the Cougars. And I wonder what version of each team we will get on a neutral field this
Hmm.
time around, but there wasn't a whole lot from BYU that really got me excited. Even watching them the rest of the season after that, uh, I thought they should have been able to beat some teams a little bit more. Like, yeah, they beat UCF by 20. Yeah, they beat Cincinnati by 12. Uh, they, at the end of the day, they're 11-1. They went out and won, and winning is something that some teams like Miami haven't been able to do against inferior opponents. But yeah, that's I guess what I'm looking at in this one. I don't think that there's really a whole lot of room for uh, BYU to improve. I think Texas Tech, you know, basically had their way and could have had it even worse. So yeah, I'll flip it over to you. What are you thinking in this one?
Yeah, I don't think BYU has enough firepower to me, at least from the way I've watched them the last few weeks. Defensively, they're pretty solid, but I just think a lot of other teams are going to have. Well, not even that. I think when you face a team, like Texas Tech and your BYU, is I think you're going to face some really good athletes. I think BYU struggles to get great athletes sometimes. But for me, I think I wanted to go. Who am I going to go with? I've been changing my head in my head. I've been changing it a few times, but I think I'm going to go with Texas Tech, and I'm going to go 20. let's go 27 to 15. We're going to go with that. 27
Hmm.
15.
For anybody that's curious how the last game went, Texas Tech did outrush BYU 149 to 67. They had zero turnovers, while the Cougars had three. And then Bear Buckmeyer only had 188 passing yards in this one and only one touchdown. Uh, I think, let me check here. They did only sack him once, and Texas Tech does love to get after the quarterback. So that was something that I would have thought would have been a little bit more dominant by the Red Raiders in this one. But yeah, I'm feeling good about Texas Tech, and I think they're gonna cover that spread also. And you got to insert you know, the casual fan comment about it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season, but I don't think it's going to be particularly hard for Texas Tech to beat this team two times in the same
No,
season. And speaking
not with
of
that
beating a
offense.
team, yeah, and speaking of beating a team two times in the same season, can the Alabama Crimson Tide beat the Georgia Bulldogs two times in the same
That,
season? Because I think when they initially met, Alabama was just getting to their peak. And I think right now Georgia has been playing in their peak right now, and Alabama's been not quite to the level of Oklahoma where they're just, getting out every week, like, destroyed in battle, but, still somehow surviving on life support. I don't think it's quite like that, but I do think Georgia's more primed uh, to win this one and split, I guess, the series this season. Georgia is a 2.5 point favorite here, some
mhm.
by a slim margin.
Yeah, it's funny. The guy that I work with, I also work with a teacher that is from that roots for Alabama, and so it's a couple
I
teachers
swear,
that are.
you work with a teacher that roots for every single team.
I
Like you
know
have
it's
a Georgia
wild,
friend, an Alabama friend, a Tennessee friend, a Michigan friend. Like,
dude. It's funny. So at this school, she's from Missouri, I believe, but she roots for Alabama. I think it's something through her family, and then obviously this guy went to Georgia, and his brothers are actually Oklahoma fans. It's kind of a whole thing,
hmm,
but he was telling me that he did the all-state predictor for the playoff, that you can do on ESPN. And
oh
every
yeah,
time it has them facing Alabama again in the playoff, with them losing to in the SEC championship. And he goes, I cannot do this if I lose them to three times in a season. It's just not going to be good.
oh
Um,
boy.
so we'll see. I'm actually leaning more Georgia. Again, I think Georgia's one of the better teams in college football. So for me, I'm going to go Georgia in this one. I'm going to go Georgia 27, Alabama 24.
Like I was saying earlier with the way the Iron Bowl went, Alabama has to play mistake free in this game, and then going over to the Georgia side, I'm feeling really good about the way that they just handled Texas in that one. Texas just hasn't been able to seem to get around these guys, but of course Georgia really hasn't been able to get around Bama even last year. This is a game that Alabama won also. Looking at the way that the initial first meeting went, of course, Alabama converted 13 of 19 third downs. That was like the main stat and story of this game is just how they continued to extend drives, and Georgia's defense could not get off the field in this one. And even though Alabama was outrushed 227 yards to 117, uh, even
Hmm.
though, what was it? Yeah, Georgia also had a turnover in this one. Alabama had none. Those are the kind of things that can really help you win when it's like this close of a game. So I'm going to go ahead and say the key to victory this time around for Georgia is going to be the defense has to get off the field, get pressure on Ty Simpson. I have no issues or no doubts that they're going to be able to stop the run in this one. But you do have to get off the field on like those 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 situations. Otherwise, this is, going to be pretty close to what things happened last time. And if you can get a turnover on Alabama, more power to you. They haven't really been able to, uh, not many teams have been able to force turnovers on Alabama besides Oklahoma, and that ended up costing them. So if Alabama is mistake prone in this one, that's probably going to hurt him. So if you're Alabama, don't turn the ball over. If you're
Yeah.
Georgia, stop them on 3rd down. And that
Yeah.
being said, I do feel good about Georgia overall heading into this one. So I'm going to go ahead and say um, we'll go ahead and go Georgia 31 to 28. I think we'll see some points. I think we can see
I
some
love it.
points in this one.
I love it. I love it. I think that's all of them, right? All the big ones there.
That is all the P4 ones. We're not going to really talk a ton about the G5 ones, but I did have a couple points that I wanted to bring with both of these. So, of course, North Texas and Tulane are playing. Uh, And the winner of that one is most likely going to be that fifth team. But also happening this weekend is, like we said, JMU versus Troy. And if JMU can win that one and go 12-1, well, Duke is,
Mm,
if they win, they go 8-5. I think JMU ends up getting that spot. But also, if
mm.
JMU somehow loses to Troy, I think that's going to be really hard to happen because Troy's 8-4. JMU's a 23.5 point favorite. Money line is Troy plus 1,400, like four digits is crazy. If JMU somehow loses that game, Virginia somehow loses their game, and UNLV can upset Boise State. Boise State's a 4 point favorite in the Mountain West Championship. I think UNLV could maybe have a case to be that last conference championship team in there too. So that's kind of what's going on at the G5 level. And remember,
Hmm.
of course, I haven't heard anything about if John Summerall is staying to coach Tulane or leaving.
That
But
plays a
like I said,
factor.
that yeah, it could be a factor. I wish I knew that information right now before I mentioned that, but again, something to consider. So that's kind of the college scene that we got going on this
Yeah.
weekend, Ben. We do have to talk about uh, Shador Sanders' second full start, of course, and how it looked a lot more like his first act. Well, maybe not quite as bad as his first action against the Ravens, but didn't really hear a whole lot of that hoopla that he had or that was around him for that first start. I heard a lot more excuses in this one, which I've never seen a bar set so low for a quarterback, even in Cleveland, with the
Yeah.
way that everybody's been reacting and pointing fingers everywhere. I got a couple things to note here. So while Shador does have four passes over 30 yards so far, and Dylan Gabriel had none, you can, give him
Mm.
credit for opening up the field and being able to go deep downfield. And we got a deep pass game. His QBR is 7.
Oh,
It's 7, Ben. You want to know what Dylan Gabriel's is?
like
Not
20.
much better, 30.9, but still
Oh.
not 7. Out of 45 qualified quarterbacks, Shador Sanders is the worst in EPA. It's like an efficiency stat, but terrible in that category. The worst in the NFL through 10 quarters of play out of 45 qualified quarterbacks. This weekend, of course, he goes 16 to 25, 149 yards, a touchdown, no picks, takes 3 sacks. One of the criticisms that I'm starting to see of him, and we saw this in college, he
Yeah.
seems to be so concerned about his final stat line and his completion percentage staying high and his interception staying low that he'll just take a bad sack and lose 15 yards
Yeah, I
instead
know.
of just throwing it away and doing what's best for the team. But yeah, that's what I'm more frustrated and annoyed by is that I have to almost like, trash this kid and act like I don't want him to do good, and make
Hmm.
my team good. But when you hear everybody talk about how great he was, it's like, guys, are you not seeing what I'm seeing? Like,
No, they
what are
just
we
they
talking
see
about
that
here?
they see the hype, but they also see that he throws it farther than Dylan Gabriel. It doesn't mean he's a better quarterback. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks that don't have great arms that are actually really solid quarterbacks. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like these that like again, the Browns suck, and that's the way it is. The Browns suck, and so all you can do is look at the future, but also you don't want to ruin the future at the same time, if that makes sense. So I think that's why I think, look, the best thing I'm rooting for the Browns this year, honestly, is that Garrett gets the sack record. That's like the one thing I'm rooting for, and that's about it.
Yeah, and speaking of Myles Garrett, I think he did add another sack
He
to his
did. He had
total this
one.
weekend. He did, so that puts him at 19 for the season now. Uh, and then I guess just one more comment about Shador. My position has always been the same. I want to see him and Gabriel get 5 or 6 starts each. This isn't me
Hmm.
saying that I want him benched or that he's finished. I just want him to finish out the season, and I would appreciate a little bit more reasonable discussion around the whole quarterback situation.
Hmm.
That's just kind of where I'm at. And then,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, Quinchon looked good again. He had 91 yards on the ground on 23 carries. Harold Fannin had the one touchdown and led the team in receiving yards. So again, we got a lot of young bright spots on this team. One guy that I would love to see maybe not play for the Cleveland Browns ever again is Jerry Jeudy.
Oh gosh, just
The
hurts to
stupid play
watch.
that he had last weekend, the drops are a problem
He starts
again, and seeing
complaining to
him getting
Shadur.
starts complaining to him about that. It's like, dude, you had I know this is, could be a little bit to do with the quarterback and the passing situation also, but Judy had 3 catches for 26 yards. He's got only 421 yards and 1 touchdown this season.
Big
Uh,
drop off.
yeah, he's not really doing a whole lot with the opportunities that he is being given. That would be a guy that wouldn't
Hmm.
upset me at all if he wasn't around anymore. Similarly to how Odell Beckham Jr. was more of a problem eventually, and I'd love to see him get out of there too.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I think it's going to be, I think change will be coming for sure in
Yeah.
some instance.
Um, let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to discuss today.
Nothing on the top of my
Um,
head.
yeah, that's I think that's pretty much everything.
But there is
Uh,
there is one question that you do need to answer though, Josh.
okay.
Two questions. Actually, it's two, so it's technically a second question. Best your you can either answer it with being your favorite Christmas song of all time or the best Christmas song of all time. Second one, and I know we bring this up every year, best Christmas movie. Go.
Well, I'll go ahead and movie first because I know that it's without a doubt How the Grinch Stole Christmas starring Jim
Oh,
Carrey, the live
it's
version.
disgusting.
I already got to watch that with my girlfriend already.
Oh.
Taylor loves that movie also. So that's been up there for a while. Love that one more than the DreamWorks one and the original one. I love, I guess, the extra spin that Jim puts on the character and kind of
Hmm.
makes him act all goofy and even do things that I think the true Grinch wouldn't do, like go down and be a part of the Jubilation, of
True.
course. But yeah, that's up there. And then as far as like Christmas songs go, I do think Silent Night's a really pretty song. There's not really a
Hmm.
whole lot of songs that uh, I like jamming in my car to. I really don't listen to a whole lot of Christmas music willingly or on my own, but Silent Night I think is goes good. I think the first Noel's nice. Oh Holy Night's nice. Don't
Hmm.
ask for whose version. I just think the words are really good.
Yeah, see, for me, Josh, because I'm a teacher, I play a lot of Christmas music in my classroom. It's kind of thing once December hits, I start doing. I I love me a good old Feliz Navidad.
Hmm.
There's something about that song, the jingle, and the kids love it. So that's probably like one of my favorites. I think the best song of all time, Christmas song. Ooh, Mary, Did You Know? I think is probably, it's at least for me, is one that I think it goes up there a long way. Mary, Did You Know? And then Christmas movie. Well, that's just easy. Um, so this used to be a tie for many years between Elf and Home Alone. And then last year I rewatched both of them. And I realized that I just love Home Alone so much. Like just the stupidity of the whole movie itself. Okay, after the first one they get really bad, but the first one will always be
Of
iconic to me,
course.
and I think it's the best for sure of all time.
Yeah, after the Grinch, like I do love the Tim Allen, the Santa Claus. I think Home Alone has quite a bit of nostalgia to it. Christmas Vacation's nice.
Yeah,
Uh, Elf is up there, probably around five. That probably round that out. But
yeah.
yeah,
So
is there
yeah,
any is there any maybe Christmas song that is unique
hmm
to Hungary itself?
um, not necessarily. I mean, they have a lot of like the Hungarian version of songs. I mean, they do have some specific Hungarian songs that are for Christmas, but really the thing that's big here, obviously the songs are, but is also like in Europe is Christmas markets are a big thing. So I think that would be more of like what you would hear. Like you hear a lot of the Hungarian versions of these songs at these Christmas
Mm.
markets, for sure. I mean, really, you're only a few states away from being in Finland, where you can go all the way up north and go to where Santa's workshop is. So,
Mm.
you know, that's kind of a whole little fun fact.
No, I'm gonna be
Um,
disappointed if you don't make that trip up now that you're that close.
well, this is the funny thing is it's like it's actually you can take an hour flight from I think Helsinki to the location. It's like an hour flight, or you can take a 12-hour train ride and it's like an overnight and you can wake up in the morning to like the sun rising at like 10:30 in the morning. Like that would just be amazing. So there's a lot of options in that sense, but
Hmm.
you know. But anyways, um, Josh, we had a great breakdown of the chaos of rivalry weekend. We hope you guys are going to tune in to to this conference championship. I think it's gonna be a big games coming up. Also, down below, put what's your favorite Christmas? What's the best Christmas movie? And also, what is your favorite Christmas song as well? What are you jamming to nowadays? And once again, if you love listening and watching on YouTube, go hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And if you've loved watching on, listening, there we go, on Spotify, go ahead and let us know by liking, favoriting, sharing it with friends and family. That's always a great time. So, yeah, once again, enjoy this time with family, enjoy the weekend, and until next time, we'll see ya.